So sometimes as people of God, and even as Christians, sometimes we go out there and we place our joy and our happiness and our ability to feel happy, joyous, or peaceful in circumstances. Sometimes we place it in other things that we don't have any control over. Maybe it's the fact that we want to get to a certain place with our career. We want to have a certain amount of success. We want to be doing good. We want to wait till we're disciplined enough and we feel like we're doing a good enough job. We want to wait until we haven't committed any sins, until, we're feeling perfectly fine and we feel like we're worthy to be able to experience the joy of the Lord. But maybe we should stop placing all these things into all this feeling towards being joyful into having to have every situation right, every circumstance right. Because then all of a sudden we're placing our joy in something else. We're placing our joy in these circumstances that we have no control over. And maybe God doesn't want us to do that. Maybe what God talks about in the Bible in terms of being able to have the fruits of the Spirit, love, hope, joy, peace, all this stuff, is something that we actively work towards with God. Maybe instead of trying to go towards these things that we think are going to bring that joy, we start working towards God to bring that joy. Because I heard this story of Jerry Jones. Jerry Jones is the owner of the Dallas Cowboys. And he said that when he was first growing up, he used to play for Arkansas, which is a college football team. And at that time, they were an amazing team. They were trying to be as good as they freaking could. And then all of a sudden they win the national championship. And he said he felt this amazing sense of joy, happiness, all this amazing stuff when they experienced this, when they had this moment of just feeling this overwhelming sense of joy. So he said that for the rest of his career, in terms of owning the Dallas Cowboys, he was always chasing after that one little feeling, that feeling of joy. He said that once they got to the win, once they got to the Super Bowl and they were able to win the Super Bowl, that's when he was going to feel all that joy. Chasing after that feeling. And of course, luckily enough, he was able to experience this win. He was able to experience this Super Bowl win. But I was talking with my mom and she was saying this is something where, you might be able to work towards this win. You might be able to work towards this win. She was saying something about that. And if you can work towards this win, you can actually feel this sense of happiness. But I was like, okay, also, if we don't feel this win, if we don't get towards this win in something that we've placed all of our joy into, all of a sudden, we might go the exact opposite way. If you're setting your joy behind this locked barrier and you don't get to that barrier, all of a sudden, maybe that's where depression comes from. Or maybe that's where sadness comes from. Maybe that's where the anger comes from. Because even after they experienced this win in the Super Bowl, they experienced two more. But him, Jerry Jones, and the coach that was coaching the Cowboys at the time, they had a lot of bouts. They had a lot of anger. They had a lot of anger towards each other. They wanted more credit. They were going back and forth over that. So maybe that's why they can never really hold on to that joy. It might be there one day when they experience the Super Bowl win, everything's happening, everything's going good, but then it's gone the next day when they start fighting over little things. Now, how can we as Christians experience joy on a day-to-day basis? Maybe it's not about any circumstance, but about just getting closer to the Lord. Getting closer to the Lord on a day-to-day basis and knowing that that's what we're doing. Maybe you're living in sin right now. Maybe you have things going on and maybe you're not perfect. But maybe if we can continue to find joy in getting closer to the Lord, no matter where we are currently at, all of a sudden everything's going to start to work itself out. Maybe everything's going to start to feel a little bit better. Because I, for myself, feel like I'm starting to feel more joy, more happiness on a day-to-day basis. Even if the circumstances aren't perfect. Even if I know I want to get better. And I know that I have this place that I want to get to. But I can still experience joy right now in the process. Being able to have fun with it, man. Because I can imagine these Dallas Cowboys, man, they would talk about this in the documentary if y'all have seen that. And they were just really grilling them. And, you can get to a win with that. They were really grilling them. They talked about how they hated their coach, all that stuff, man. So I can imagine that the process of trying to get to the Super Bowl win probably wasn't the best, probably wasn't the most joyous thing that you can have, which is, it worked for them at the time. But also, how can we find the joy in what we are currently doing, man? How can we stop locking our joy behind something else that's not in our control and lock it in something that is in our control, which is just getting closer to our Heavenly Father, Jesus Christ. I hope we're all able to do that today because I feel like I want us all to experience this joy, man. If you're experiencing this joy right now, let me know down below what you're so happy about. And if you're not, let me know how you're going to get closer to the Lord down below. Love you guys. Hope you have an amazing day. Peace.